a little trip with me, and hopefully you can see how the hood, suburbs, and Main Street are all connected. Enough respect, I mean, we network across the globe, cause it's a global market in case you didn't know. And since we all about information flow, let me be the first one to welcome you to Tech Zone with Paul Amadeus Lane. Let's talk tech, cause technology changing the game. It's all good in the hood, it's everywhere. Now let's get to the show, cause we live on air, yeah.
Hello and welcome to this edition of the Tech Zone. I'm your host, Paul Amadeus Lane. So happy to have you with me today. On our show, we're going to talk about different areas when it comes to technology. Coming up in our last segment, we're going to talk about data breaches and how companies out there are meeting the challenge to keep your information safe. Coming up in our second segment, we're going to talk about some accessories that help you coordinate your devices that you have. Wouldn't it be nice to have a custom cover or something to make your device look unique? We're going to talk about an innovation that's actually doing that. In our first segment, we're going to delve into right now medicine, digital health, and what it means to you. Before I bring my next guest on, I'm going to play a video. Now, you who are listening on radio, you won't be able to watch the video. So what I am going to do, I am going to put on my narration hat. Now, many of you who have known me for years have heard me voice commercials, do narration. But for some out there who haven't heard me before, I'm going to put on my hat just for you. Here we go. Let's get it started. Imagine you're at your doctor's office and he notices that you have symptoms he is not aware of. He pulls out his smart device and sends the information to another physician on the other side of the world. That physician is now able to ask certain questions about what she sees the symptoms are. Now she too can chime into a colleague on the other side of the world. This colleague now says that this may be the best possible way in treating this. Instantaneously, it gets back to your doctor. Now he's able to prescribe a treatment that could benefit you. Paging on Figure 1. Yeah, I know that was my feeble attempt of being a narrator, but this information will blow you away. I decided to have the chief medical officer, the co-founder, join me and ask him, why did they create this type of innovation? And what does it mean not only to you and I, but others around the globe too? I am so happy to have with me right now our next guest. What his company is doing is just transcending the way medicine and diagnoses are done. And joining me right now is Dr. Joshua Landy. He is the chief medical officer, and also he is the co-founder of this great innovation right here, Figure 1. Josh, how are you, my friend?
Well, thank you, Paul. Thanks for having me on this. This is great to be here with you.
Well, it's great to talk to you. And first, let's get right into it. How did you guys know that you guys wanted to tackle this as far as innovation and just be out there in the forefront when it comes to the medical field?
Well, when I see the way that medical professionals are communicating today, they're using the same types of communication that everyone else is using. Everybody's on social media these days. Everyone's using their phones, communicating in the mobile fashion. And we wanted to say, this is the way people want to communicate. Medicine doesn't have a way that's easy. Let's create a way that's easy, and medicine will get better.
Awesome. And I'm telling you, when I watch some of the videos that you guys have on your page, I'm like, I'm really, really, really blown away. Now, looking at where we're at now in the Internet of Things and technology, especially when it comes to the medical field, why do you think that more providers out there are not really jumping on the technology bandwagon? Because we have it here, why not use it?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem is mostly that um, it's an economics problem, Paul. It's the idea that people who work in healthcare don't get to choose the tools that they use. There's a lot of layers of administration and bureaucracy, and I think often uh, large systems like universities and hospital systems and even clinics have a lot of rules and regulations and committees around what decisions need to be made. And by the time the suggestions that the doctors and nurses have make it to the top, there's a lot of broken telephone and a lot of changes to those requests before they're able to be honored. Now, what we're doing with Figure One is different because this type of permissionless innovation lets doctors and nurses pick up this free app from the App Store anytime they want, download it, start using it immediately. There's no delays, no administration, and you get to start communicating with people you want to right away.
And it's, and that type of real time interaction. Why is that so critical? Especially when it comes to either cases of health problems and even rare exceptional cases that you guys talked about in your International Business Time article that they did on you guys.
Mm. Well, the idea that you can get the information you need in the moment you need it, I think, is one of the most abiding hopes that's been present in medicine for so long. The idea that if you've got a patient in front of you and you don't know what to do, you could literally be the best doctor, but if you didn't know, then you can't help that person. And that's the existential dread of medicine, being able to help somebody but not knowing what to do. Creating a network that lets you reach out to millions of healthcare professionals around the world and say, I have this case, this is what it is, and I need your help. And having tens of thousands of people look at that means that there are experts out there who can lend you an opinion, lend you their brain, so to speak.
When it comes to kind of putting this together, the nuts and bolts with the innovation behind it, was it kind of difficult, or did your team say, okay, we can figure this out? It doesn't take a lot of guesswork, because I look at your team, have a phenomenal team. Take us through the process of that when you guys said, okay, let's tackle this to where we're at today.
Yeah, well, I also want to be able to pay my compliments to our team, because without the incredible work that they've been doing, both in the technology side and in the research side, we never would be able to have gotten this far. But the biggest question that we were faced with right at the beginning was, how do we answer the question of patient privacy? If you're talking about medical cases, how do you make sure that patient privacy stays safe? Because that has been our number one concern since the very first day. So what we did was we essentially hired a lot of lawyers to be able to do the research for us. And even though it took months and months, we eventually were able to get to the point where we realized if we don't include any of the identifying details, if those patients are never identified on our platform, that means that doctors and nurses are only talking about the medicine, just the nuts and bolts of treating people, how to make a diagnosis, what therapy to choose, and how to differentiate condition A from condition B. If they're just talking about the technicalities, that's what we want them to do. Address the problems without needing to worry about whether or not patient privacy was ever going to be a concern. The best way to keep a secret, Paul, is not to know it.
I totally agree. And it was the old saying, teamwork makes the dream work, right?
That's a great way to put it.
And, looking at what you guys are doing, I think we really need to talk about this. What you guys are doing in areas where there is a need, like refugees over in Syria. Talk about that, because, I think in the media, we don't talk about that enough as far as the help that ones need over there. And why did you guys saw a need, and why did you guys jump into the realm to fulfill that need?
Well, certainly medicine as a whole is an empathetic, compassionate, and hopefully humanitarian type of interest. To be able to help others who need help is both the goal of every physician and the goal of Figure One as a whole. So to be able to see these people in need, where their doctors who are caring for them are stressed beyond belief because they have more patients who are sicker and in more dire need than anyone they've ever cared for, means that they need all the help they can get. Being able to say that we've got a worldwide community of physicians who can lend a hand, that means essentially doctors can volunteer abroad from their living room. You can help people who are at the most vulnerable point in their lives from wherever you are at any time of day or night. If you can't take off weeks or months to go volunteer abroad, you can do it in 5-10 minute segments from your desk or from your couch.
I love that. It kind of takes us back to way before my time and your time when our ancestors were our age. Remember the doctors used to come to the house, all the time, and now we're going back to that realm now where you can have that interaction even inside your home. And to me, I have a medical background, but not as extensive as you. I've noticed when you talk and treat people in their own environment, they seem to get better more faster. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy or not, but what's been your take on how ones who receive this care, whether on a ship, whether in different countries, what's been the response been as far as their care and them getting better?
Paul, I think you've hit on a really great insight here. The idea that people get better in their own environments, I think, is 100% correct. And there's actually lots of research to support that. If you treat people with diseases that usually require hospitalization in their homes with an elevated level of nursing care and monitoring, you can get those people back on their feet sooner. And I think a lot of it has to do with a comfort level. There's a certain assumption that goes with being in a hospital and a certain persona that you adapt or adopt when you're in a hospital gown, forced to lie down in a bed every day. But getting people used to their regular lives again, getting people back up on their feet. That's what we're all about, trying to get people back to where they started. So, when you think about getting a doctor to the bedside of a patient, if that becomes easier with the advances of technology, then we are there to support those physicians.
Well said, well said. And when we look at too, just the way you guys are able to pull this off with the apps and everything. Let's say if a doctor or a healthcare professional out there is listening and watching this interview and saying, I want to be down with that. I want to get into this because I appreciate the mission. I think this is spot on. I could do diagnoses from my house even when I'm on vacation. How can doctors get involved with this?
Well, the easiest way is to start by either going to figureone.com or downloading the app from the App Store or the Google Play Store. Get involved, hop on our platform, and we've got lots of people who show up on day one, and within a month they're in our top contributor programs. They're ambassadors for our programs. They're spreading the word and trying to increase the ability of people to help millions of healthcare professionals, in turn help billions of people.
In reading some of the interviews that you guys have done in the past, one thing I can catch on about you and the team is that there's this empathetic type of just compassion that you guys have, and we can be real about it. I'm a quadriplegic. I've been in a wheelchair for over 24 years, spent many months in the hospital. And, you can tell when healthcare professionals are stressed and the manner of care that they give. But when I look at you guys talk about what you guys are doing, we feel that compassion. We feel that empathy. Where does that come from?
I mean, I think it's one of the most central values that imbues healthcare professionals, both in the way they learn, the way they practice, and at Figure One, it's one of our core values is empathizing not only with the patients that are treated by the people on our platform, but also for the people who treat those patients, and being able to give people a level of understanding, being able to say, I know where you're coming from. I know what you're dealing with, and I hear you. That can do that kind of listening can do as much help as any type of medical treatment.
I totally agree with you, and I know because of HIPAA laws, there are certain things we cannot divulge about people's health diagnoses and their treatment. But can you share just the impact this has had on some patients out there? Have you got any emails saying or any messages on Facebook or Twitter and them saying, thank you guys for creating this, or even a doctor or a healthcare professional saying, what, Josh, what you guys are doing over there is amazing. Thank you guys for creating this. Have there been that kind of feedback from ones out there?
Paul, we get letters like that every week. I've been able to hear some amazing stories from medical care across the globe, in places as remote as the Peruvian rainforest even. We got a beautiful story from a doctor who practices in the jungle. And He treats a small village of 2,000 people there. And what he used to have to do if he had a patient who needed something complicated is he would have to put that person on a plane and change planes and change planes and change planes until they finally got to the hospital big enough to treat them. And now all he has to do is take out his phone and he can connect with other physicians around the world to say, does this patient need surgery? Does this patient need to get on a plane? Does this family need to spend all the money that they've spent years saving getting this person to another hospital? And sometimes the answer is no. And what that's done for him and for that village has just saved them money. And he's also been able to really deliver care that has been unparalleled in that place ever before.
See, that those are stories right there that just, just really warm the heart for ones out there to see the feelings and the emotions behind a great company like what you guys are doing over at Figure One, and being a critical care specialist yourself. No doubt, studying in that and interning in that, you've seen some things like, I used to be on the front line. I was a medic. So I used to be on the front line whenever things would happen when it came to automobile accidents and there. And seeing trauma and seeing things happen. Being in the critical care unit and learning this and studying this, how did that mold you to the person you're at today and being a healthcare professional?
Oh, that's a great question. When I deal with my patients, I know that they have complicated diseases. Their diseases require management by multiple specialists. And often those types of communications are difficult to be able to keep people updated all at the same time. Not to mention that sometimes you're dealing with a case, it's 4 a.m, there's almost nobody awake, there's no physicians around. You have a sick patient who's got a complicated disease, and you need to know something so that you can move on with that patient's treatment. Being able to reach out to people at 4 a.m. around the world, wherever they are, to be able to say, here's a problem I'm trying to solve, I need help solving it. And to have people come to your service and be able to recognize that they can help you, there's not a better feeling in the world to know that there's people who have your back in those situations. Well said.
Josh, let's give that information out again so ones can download this beautiful app. Check you guys out on the website. How can they do that, my friend?
So you can always, no matter what device you're using, you can always check us out on figure1.com. And you can go to your App Store or Google Play Store and you can download the app. It's just called Figure One. With the number 1 right there at the end.
Fantastic. So what do we have to look forward to in the future with Figure One? Any things happening later on this year? Any expansion that you guys are working on? Or are you guys just kind of digesting what you guys are doing right now?
We're doing lots. I mean, there's always development. We release a new version of this free app every 2 weeks, which means there's always new updates and always new things. We recently we started a version. We released a version of our app in Brazilian Portuguese and in Spanish just recently, and that was big because there's a lot of people in Latin America who have the exact same needs that we do up here in North America, and being able to service their community has just brought a lot more diversity and inclusion of this app starting to be around the world. Furthermore, we also have this great feature called paging, where you can ask for help from any type of specialist, and Figure One will find a verified specialist and deliver that case to them to get you an opinion as quickly as possible.
You guys are hitting a home run with this, Josh, and I'm happy that we were able to talk with you and have you on before you guys blow up. So when you guys do blow up, I'll be like, Josh, remember you came on the show, and I can spread this out to all the social media and everything. Say, I had him on. but thank you so much, my friend, and I appreciate talking to you all the way from the beautiful country of Canada, and a big shout out to your producer Ben too, who's doing some stellar camera work and the beautiful outdoors out there, my friend. And you guys are always welcome back. Come on, talk about things that are happening with Figure One, and it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure to be with you too, Paul. Thanks so much for having me in Figure One.
Thank you, Dr. Joshua Landy, for joining me. Gosh, Josh was an amazing guest, wasn't he? And don't be sending me nasty tweets saying, why didn't I call him doctor throughout the interview? Josh gave me permission to call him Josh. So There you go. No, I'm just joking. Hey, when we get back on the show, we're going to talk about an innovation out there that will help us coordinate many of our devices that we have. You have a gaming console. You got a, whatever you call it, got an accessory for that. A smartphone, accessory for that. Even the new devices that Amazon and how the other ones have too. Ooh, yes. So when we get back, we're going to have more information about that here on the Tech Zone. We'll be back right after these messages.